Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Fresh Crits of Melbourne. We are back once again with the lovely Footscray Cycling Club of round 2 of their 4-round summer series that they've put on down at their local crits down in Western Melbourne. It's a beautiful day down here at Footscray, and you can see here we've just started off. Jamie has jumped on the pedals and launched a big attack, and I was in a perfect spot to jump onto his wheel. You can see in the rear cam it's ignited a couple of the riders to get on board because this break means business. Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't been here before, my name is Steve Flack, and I edit, update, and create crit videos for you guys to watch to see what I do wrong, and hopefully you will be able to do it a little bit better. For this one, you can see there's a bit of wind on the course. As we come around this corner here, we've got a pretty nice tailwind, so you're going to see speeds of up to 45 to 50 kilometers an hour on this back straight. This is A grade down here at Footscray, which translate roughly to about Cat 1 over in the States. However, in saying that, there weren't all the hitters here today, so it probably is in the middle of a Cat 1 and Cat 2 or an A and B grade sort of field. But needless to say, the racing was electric, it was hot, fairly defensive actually. There was constant attacks and always getting brought away. Nothing stayed out the front for longer than a couple of minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut into some of the footage and look at how the race played out, when the breaks happened, how it split apart, and obviously looking at the final sprint in the end where everything lights up. If you are new here, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, throw us a like, and if you see yourself or you want to see something a little bit differently, chuck it in the comments below. Without further ado, let's get stuck into some proper racing. Hold on to your butts. So I'm going to do my best to point out a couple of the key riders that you need to watch today. So first up, we've got Jesse in front of us, number 6 in that fluoro skinny, which I kind of love, hate. He's actually second on points at the present time. In front of him in the red kit, riding a Merida bike, I believe it's Ryan Mosby, and he is a bit of a hitter in the local crit scene. So make sure you watch out for him, especially at the end. Coming up on our right now is going to be 2 riders. The first rider in the black Nicks, essentially, that's Josh Zammat. He's the Footscray Club champion and loves an attack, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about later. Following him closely behind is Jamie in the green jersey, who is from Northern Victoria, up in Bendigo, who is super lean, packs a sprint, really punchy rider, and super strong, so he's another person to watch out for. I'm here joined with my mate Dean, who has featured before on several Fresh Crits episodes. He's wearing a skin suit similar to mine. You can see him at the front there. He's a proper hitter. He punches out 400, 500 watts in his sleep. He's a really good breakaway TT sort of specialist, but also can pack a nasty sprint, so we'll watch out for him. Unfortunately, I've got cameras on him as well, so we'll be able to cut between those 2 cameras in this race. But just wanted to highlight a few of the key riders in this one. Now let's get stuck into some proper racing. Oi, how you feeling? Nah, not great. Yeah. So we're 25 minutes in, and I think there's been about 20 attacks. I'm not even joking. It's been constant. I've ridden up next to my teammate and asked him, how you feeling? We're not feeling great. None of us are. Who would be feeling good after 20 attacks? But that doesn't stop the madman. He says one thing, he does another. He jumps on the pedals, launches himself to the front of the bike race, and puts his dominant foot on the race and says, hey, I'm not here to stuff around. I'm here to win this one. You can only imagine what he can do with fresh legs. But needless to say, the whole peloton is still together. It's fracturing. You can see in the rear cam, there's lots of gaps opening up, and it only takes 1 to 2 more attacks in order to split the race open, and the strongest will survive. And in reality, that's what all you're looking to do in a crit race, is trying to whittle down the group as much as possible, because it's a lot easier to win a race when there's 3 people you're sprinting against as opposed to 23. We've skipped ahead just a couple of minutes, and you can see in the rear cam, splits are starting to open up. Deano has just gotten off the front, and he's fallen back straight away. it's almost like he's blown up. He told me he wasn't feeling so great. He gets on the front and almost pops. You can see him in the rear cam, the gaps are opening up. This is the time in the race where everybody else is going to want to ignite it, because that opportunity is there to bring the field smaller and smaller. But this is not Dino's first rodeo. He understands the importance of getting across to this move, and he can see the rest of the fields, they're all starting to sit up. I don't think they have the legs to get across. So this has got to be a one-man show. It's all up to him to get himself across. He can't rely on the other riders. Fortunately for him, he gets a bit of a sit from number 13. He's able to jump in his draft, use that, and just launch himself across, trying to find recovery wherever he can. 600 watts, he's coming out of that corner. He wants to get across to that group as quick as he possibly can. The longer he leaves it, who knows what will happen in this front group. They could surge and he could be shot at the back. So his plan is to get across as quick as he can. He's now in the draft. He's able to dial back the watts. Josh looks over his shoulder. I can just imagine he's a little bit frustrated knowing that he was so close of dropping Dean out of this race, but it's not that easy, Josh. Dino's back in the wheels and he'll be ready to go once he gets his heart rate to drop down a little bit. But now the rubber band has finally snapped and the other riders in the peloton have been unable to get across. So that brings the final group here down to just 8 riders. The next question is anybody of these 8 riders going to crack? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. So the brake's still established. We've been away for about 15 minutes, going about 45 kilometers an hour. And in this field, that's probably the sweet spot in terms of being able to stay away from the group, but not burning matches. We've been doing about 300 watts, just over, which is around 4.1 watts per kilo. But when you've got about 10 minutes of the race to go on, just a little under 6.5 Ks left, people start getting a little bit edgy. They know how much time is left, and it's at this moment that Kenny Attard has got on the front of the race, who's working pretty closely with Zammat here, and just absolutely lit it up. Jumped on the pedals, pushing really, really hard, 500 watts to get away, because he's thinking, there's 10 minutes left in this one. Let's try to whittle that group from a group of 8 all the way down to a group of 3, or maybe people will sit up and let me ride off into the sunset for a victory. But the group is far too motivated to let that happen. All it's done now is sparked the race up. It's on. No more sitting around, no more taking it easy. It's now going to be constant attack after attack. Because once one attack happens, the legs start getting a little bit tired, lactic starts to form in the legs, and if you're a stronger rider than the rest of the group, you hit him with another encounter to break apart the group, and that's exactly what's happened here. Ryan Mosby jumped on the front, noticed that everyone had kind of sat up and launched another attack. Now, the difference between the ultra strong riders is that they'll be able to sit on that 400 watts and just drive it for that extra minute longer, because it's not necessarily the amount of watts you put out, it's the amount of watts you do over a set period of time, which is going to split the group. So it's at this moment I decide that I can already see what's going to be happening in this group. I decide to get on the front and try to keep the pace nice and high, and with the hope that it's going to negate any sort of attack that comes through, because if you're riding fast enough, the person that attacks you is going to have to ride faster. So if you're riding 40 Ks to do 50 kilometers an hour, that takes a lot of effort. So that's the plan here. You can see Mosby is in the same sort of mindset. He keeps the pace nice and high, 42 kilometers an hour, gets on the front, flicks the elbow after 2 seconds, expects me to come through, and it's not going to happen. And then it basically, what happens now is exactly the same thing. We get this, the whole group is going to slow down once again, because no one wants to keep that pace high. And all it takes is for one rider to sit off the back, gain enough speed, and then launch himself off the front. And on cue, that's exactly what Josh Zammat does. And it's a great move because it's caught the rest of the group napping. But seeing as the group's been rolling pretty steady turns for the last 15 minutes, except for the 2 attacks we've only just seen here, the rest of us are quite fresh. So when one rider goes up the road, everybody's still fresh enough to pull through. No one's quite at that limit where it's, nah, shaking of the head, I can't pull through, I'm too cooked. Everybody has the legs to bring it back, and that's exactly what we do here. I slot in right behind Mosby. You can see Kenny Attard right on my wheel here. He doesn't want to pull through because his teammate Josh Zammat is up the road, so he's happy to recover, take it easy, because Zammat is only a couple of wheels left. He was only able to stay away for 15 or so seconds, but The question you got to ask yourself in this race is, was that Zammat's only attack? Was that all his biscuits? Or is he keeping a few aces up the sleeve, knowing full well that this race probably only has about 5 to 7 minutes left in it? Maybe that was just a tester for him to see how the rest of the peloton is holding up. Only time will tell. So it's been 60 seconds since Josh Zammat was brought back from the last attack, and he's been sitting at the back of the field the entire time. But he's had enough of that. He's had enough of sitting at the back. He launches another one up the road, and this one looks a little bit less intense than the first, but he's again testing the legs. He's saying, hey, do the guys in the rest of the peloton have what it takes to bring me back? And you can see on the right back then, the man showing up 3 laps left of this race, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great, well-timed attack, you know, with 3 laps to go, but do you have the bickies to take it to the finish? Because if you don't have the bickies, then why are you launching off the front? Maybe it's to test the legs of everyone else here. Maybe it's just to spark the race up. Maybe it's to set something up for Kenny, his teammate. No one will know except the great Zammat himself. As we round this corner here, he's probably got a 1 second gap on the peloton, and most of the people in this race can probably bridge that quite easily. And you can see here, Dino's pulled out to the right-hand side. No one's gone with him, and he knows this. Now, his opportunity here is, I don't have anyone sitting on my wheel. I could potentially go. No one's going to be in my draft, which is exactly what he does. He absolutely steps on it, lights it up with 400 watts in order to get across. Now, I think he's in a little bit of two minds here. He's thinking, if I can not only bridge across to Zammat, but also go past him and look behind and notice that no one's gone with, I may as well continue going. But because everyone was wise enough to snap onto his wheel, he's going to sit up and wait for the next counter that's probably only moments away. As you can see here, 2 laps to go on the right-hand side. It's been pretty quiet for the last 30 seconds or so. We've been cruising around. It's only a matter of time before the next attack happens. You can see in the rear cam, once again, Zammat's lingering off the back. You can see he's waiting to attack. You can see the riders split open, and that's when he finds his moment. He cuts it down the middle. Questionable decision, but absolutely steps on it. This is an all-out effort for the Zammat, and everybody's looking around being like, who's chasing? Who's chasing? I chased the last time. It's your turn to chase. It has to be an all-out effort, and it's that looking around that buys Zammat precious seconds. Jamie notices that this is a threatening attack. He gets on the front and lights it up. 300, 400, 500, 600 watts. He flicks the elbow, I come through, and now there's splits across the board. And these are the decisions that you're going to constantly have to make in a bike race if you are to win. If I sit up now, Zammat wins. If I pedal all the way and try to bridge this one back, I'm going to be cooked. So I'm wanting to call other riders through in order to share the work. But other riders are going to look around being like, I don't want to work because he's not, you know, I want to save my legs for the sprint. But it needs to be an all-out effort. As we come round this final corner, this will be the bell lap. Everything needs to be left on the table now. There's no point in looking around and asking other people to do it, because those are valuable seconds that the breakaway can have and win this race. But it's moments like these, cream rises to the top, and that's exactly what happens when Dean realizes the situation. He gets on the front and he shows everybody how it's done. Starts off by pushing out 1100 watts and then brings it back down only to push out a very uncomfortable 700 watts in order to bring this one back. Actually, what he does is 500 watts for a minute and a half, and now that might not seem like huge numbers, but after an hour of racing, that is plenty enough. It's a huge attack from Zammat here, but it's not enough to hold back the absolute powerhouse that is Dean Madden, who manages to bring Zammat back in just over a straight and a half. Zammat then goes again. He realizes the gap hasn't been completely shut, but Dean's still got some watts left. At a heart rate of 187 beats, this is just tempo for Dino. But as we look back in the field, it's scramble city as people are trying to find wheels, not get dropped. I've managed to find myself at the back of the field, which isn't bad, but in hindsight, I feel like I'm a little bit too far back. I'm hoping that I can pick up some places coming into the final straight, but I can't quite find the right wheel. We've got only a few hundred meters left before we hit the finish line. This is the last corner. Finding a good position here is crucial. We come into this corner 44 kilometers an hour. I shift down a couple of gears, get into the drops. The sprint lights up. I can't decide which way to go. You see, I'm tossing up between a clean wheel as well as a draft, but I can't find either. We sprint to the line. I pick up third, Jamie second, Mosby's first. And that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. That is the final sprint. A little bit disappointing. I feel like I could have done a lot better there if I stuck to the right wheels, but everything is better in hindsight. I hope that you gain something from this video. Where you find yourself in a sprint, you'll know to stick on the sprinter's wheel and then jump them right at the finish line. But that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Thanks once again for watching. If you enjoyed this one, why don't you check out the last video we had at Footscray. It was definitely a spicy one. If you enjoyed this one, please hit that subscribe button. I can't wait to see you next time. Ciao.
Maybe too high up.